because the Fox Sports app worked on my phone. So I got to watch it that way, but only small. It wouldn't let me turn my phone; it would just go black. So it's like, okay,
you get to watch some of it.
Yeah, I got to watch it on literally a screen yay big. I could barely read anything except for the score. I had to squint to see how much time there was. But hello!
Hey.
It's us. It's Pot of the Dead.
Hi guys.
It's a beautiful day outside. Let's make it a beautiful day inside. We're
Mr. Rogers now. Right? Yeah, we're Mr. Rogers. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
That's goddamn right. As always,
we're talking about spooky.
Yeah, we go from talking about Hostel to talking about Bob Ross.
Mr. Rogers.
Same guys.
Bob
same
Ross.
Guy.
Man.
Same guy.
Oh.
Get on with it.
Come on, sir.
Okay. As always, I am your host, Nicholas, and with me, as always, are the two beautiful ladies, Stephanie and Natasha.
Hello.
In unison. That's a beautiful thing. All right. On today's
We'll harmonize it one of
these.
Yes. You girls work on that. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the film.
Can't hear it. Try again.
Oh, okay. It's too dampened. Hush.
It is. That was
okay,
better.
it's not getting my whispers.
Oh, thank God.
Oh yeah, Tasha wins on this one because it doesn't go through.
Yeah, we've cranked up our sound dampening. So
because we're in the same room because we're married.
Yeah.
So we have to try to not hear each other.
Stay over.
But only through our headphones.
You stay over there, so help me God. So today we're talking about the 2016 film Hush, directed by Mike Flanagan, who is somebody's, unbeknownst to her up until now, favorite fucking director.
Oh, I knew.
You knew when?
I knew before.
Well, yeah, before now.
I knew.
Before the podcast?
I knew. Yes, before the podcast. When I started to watch The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, so you knew. You didn't know before the podcast because I don't believe you watched The Haunting of Hill House until this, because you were like, I really like Hush and I really like Oculus. Oh, it was right before. And I was like, that's the same guy.
Oh, yeah, because I binged it.
Then I was like, just check out Haunting of Hill House. And you're just like,
oh, it's so good.
Would that be?
Have you started The Fall of the House
No,
of
I have
Usher?
not. Have you?
Nope, not yet.
I've been seeing, like with most Flanagan stuff, I've been seeing people going like, it's fucking amazing, it's so good, and people going, don't fucking waste your time. And that's kind of how he is. And I think that's the cornerstone of a really a very vision directed director, somebody that has a vision and does their thing. If you're getting people that love you and people that hate you, you must be doing something right.
You're not appeasing
correct everyone. So that being said, Tasha, would you like to give us a little overview on what this movie's about?
Sure would. Hush is a 2016 American slasher film directed and edited by Mike Flanagan and starring Kate Siegel, who also co-wrote the film.
Now, upon some research of this movie, do you know Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel's relationship?
They are married.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah. Kind of for the same reason, The Fall of the House of Usher, not The Fall of the House of Usher. The Haunting of Hill House, she's in
like all of his stuff.
She's also in, so I got curious, like, why is this person in every movie? So I looked up that a while ago.
Was she in Oculus, or is that too soon? That was too early.
She had a really small role at Oculus. She was the dark, like shadow woman that came out of the mirror.
Oh, so she was the big bad, basically.
Yes. Yeah. You just don't see her all that often.
Yeah.
Oh, she's the one that's talking to the father and stuff?
Not in that.
Oh,
I don't think in that scene, but she's one that like comes at you.
Oh, I gotcha.
You know what I'm talking about? She's like a shadow, not like the.
She's
like in
she's
the
not
office.
Okay, so she's like the lady that climbs out, but you actually see her. She's not. She's the one with like the mirrored eyes and like she's the grudge looking,
yes,
looking
she looks
girl.
Wet.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well that's cool. Oh my God, stop it.
But something that I did find interesting about that, about them being married and everything, is that director Mike Flanagan and co-writer star Kate Siegel, a married couple, and they conceived the storyline while on a dinner date in 2014. They then wed in 2016.
That's adorable.
Like, they literally were just like, hey, what about that? Like, I wish I could have just watched that date. Because then also Kate Siegel and Mike Flanagan role played each scene in their house before writing it down. This enabled them to better envision how the characters would really react in the face of danger. So I thought that
what an awesome couple.
I think
really cute as a couple, but I kind of feel like this movie's lacking.
I'm so.
But it's their love story, guys.
That part is actually what makes this movie a little bit better.
I love knowing that it's cute and all that stuff. It's not going to help it in the points from my standpoint.
No.
So I've seen this one before, and that's why I recommended it. And then about halfway through this movie, I knew you guys were gonna. I was like, they're gonna tear this apart.
Yes.
I have a type. They're not gonna
like it. That's fine, because I've got some shit that you guys just were just very, very mean about, and
he's just really sad about the reanimator and us not being happy. I know.
Look at him over there.
Feel bad for me, world. Feel bad for me. Anyway. So this was my first watching of this film. I remember hearing about it and everything, and what I knew about it was home invasion. Oh yeah, she's deaf. That's what I knew about this movie, and that was it. Like, I remember it came out, and then.
Do you think that was Mike Flanagan's tagline?
I was like, oh no, I've got his tagline written down here that I think it was. If he came up with it, it's literally just, "What if deaf?"
What?
Oh man,
terrible.
Like, that's. Oh, yeah. I'm just gonna kind of give all this stuff so people can listen to it before we end up ruining this movie by going through it and all that stuff. But Pod of the Dead is a movie club, so make sure to stick around for the end of the episode so you can be told what we're gonna watch in the coming week for the next episode, which I'm not gonna try and build this up or anything, but I'm very, very excited for next week's episode. I'm looking at a framed poster of said movie that we're going to be watching over there. Our audio listeners can't see me pointing.
I think I know what it is.
Okay. It's not The Thing, which is behind me.
Keep it. No, clearly, because that's not where you're pointing. For everyone to know. You can't
see it. There's a Christmas tree blocking it, Steph.
I can. Yeah, we have a Christmas tree in our basement. I can kind of see it.
Can I say
yeah,
it?
I guess.
Is it the void?
You're goddamn right. It's the void.
I love that I know what's in Steph's room.
Yeah.
More than she knows what's in her room.
That's very good. Like, to actually.
This side of the wherever I can see it, like, this is nerdy stuff. That's Nick nerdy stuff. That's not Steph nerdy stuff.
That's a different echelon of nerdy stuff.
There's a bunch of horror stuff, guitars. There's a massive painting of the comic book character, the Tick, to my right.
Yeah, and Mankind behind you hanging out.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Bunch of Mankind stuff. A signed, where is he? There's a signed photo of Mick Foley back there that I bought off Drew. That was fucking great. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so Nick didn't know much about the movie. Tasha loves this movie. I I didn't know shit. And then when I told our daughter Noelle that when we were going to watch this movie, I was like, "Oh yeah, we're watching Hush for the podcast," and she was like, "Oh, I've seen that," and I was like, "Y'all don't tell me nothing. Like I did not know this." So, and she's like, "Oh, Mom, you're going to be afraid to stay in the woods from now on," and I was like, "Girl, you don't understand. Like your level of being scared and my level of being scared are not on the same playing field. I've got years on you, and it takes years to get a little backbone, I guess, in that way." But yeah, she I learned more about from her. She was just like, "Yeah, it's in a cabin." Didn't know it was in a cabin. She's like, "The girl."
It's not in a cabin.
Well, yeah, it kind of is.
That's a house. There's trees. That's not a cabin.
Because there are trees outside.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh my God. We were raised in a cabin, Tasha.
Well, she's like,
trees. Wow.
She's like, "It's a cabin in the woods and you're going to be scared." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm like, "It's a cabin." She's like, "Yep." And then she tells me the girl's death. I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "It's a really good movie." And I was like, "Okay." And so watched it. And now here we are. So, yeah.
So Hush had its world premiere at South by Southwest on March 12th, 2016. Prior to the premiere, Netflix acquired the worldwide distribution rights to the film, and it was released on April 8th of 2016. But April 7th, 2023, the film was removed from Netflix as the company's distribution license expired, and that's why this movie was such a pain in the ass for us to find to stream.
Sorry, guys. You have to watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's not that great of a. It is a little blurry.
Which is shocking that it's not on. Like, why is this Mike Flanagan not available, but like everything else?
It just expired this past April. The licensing.
Gotcha. And they just didn't relicense. Okay.
Yep. They were more interested in, because he's no longer going to be working for Netflix. He has a contract with Netflix, and The Fall of the House of Usher is his last thing. He is moving over to Amazon.
Oh, so he's still going to make stuff. It's just going to be.
So I imagine when Mike Flanagan's first television series comes out on Amazon, whenever that is, Hush and all of his other films will be readily available on Amazon.
True. The other thing I find weird, and this is just completely off topic, but if he made his new show on Netflix, and Amazon's been around a while too. I mean, Netflix has been around. I was a subscriber when they had DVDs, and they.
Whoa, Father
I know
time.
it's been a while, and I am really surprised that it's taken this long for Amazon to kind of up their game. Like they're kind of behind on all the streaming services, so maybe this will be their way of like working into the horror genre, among other things. Because I feel like they're way far behind in comparison to like Max and Netflix and all of those other streaming services, but they have probably the most money. I mean, realistically.
Yeah, but their money is wrapped up into
e-commerce,
bigger things. Yeah, a lot of that stuff, and having drones deliver groceries to your house.
Yeah, but their profits every year are astronomically higher than most places. So.
Well, yeah, because they take the money from the working class people and they give it all to fucking the other people.
Yeah, but use some of that money to have better streaming. Come on, guys.
No, they're paying all that money to make a Lord of the Rings television series that they don't even have all the rights to do, and it was okay. It was okay. It was okay. It was a thing. Yeah, I have words with it's not Elon Musk. What's that motherfucker's name with the crazy eye? I don't know. He doesn't even work at Amazon anymore.
Bezos?
Anyway.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos, get bent. He doesn't even work there anymore. Fuck that guy.
Sorry, I just had to make that point. Sorry. So.
Anyway, you didn't hear or listen to this podcast to listen to me rail Jeff Bezos about the Lord of the Rings. You wanted to listen to Hush, and we're going to throw up the spoiler warning. Beyond this point, we are going to spoil the shit out of this movie. If you would like to check us out later down the road on this episode, at the end of it, it's usually like the last 5 minutes, we will be telling you what we're watching for next week. If you don't give a shit about a movie being spoiled, stick around, listen, and we'll see what's up.
So if you want to be a part of our club, you can find us at facebook.com/podofthedead or else, on Instagram at pod_of_the_dead, or on TikTok at podofthedead. If you want to email us any questions, any complaints, or movie recommendations, you can email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com.
Before we really get into the gush and get really into the weeds in this movie, I believe you two ladies have some reviews to read.
We do.
Who wants to go first?
I think that I'll go first because it's the 10 out of the 10, and I prefer the 1 out of 10, so I'm sorry.
I specifically gave you guys the opposite
of what we liked. Yeah, I kind of assumed. Yeah. But before we get into that, do we know what the budget of this film was?
Yeah, the budget of this movie was $1 million.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. And considering it went to streaming and stuff, it doesn't really have a box office number or anything. I couldn't find anything before a paywall.
So this was strictly like an Amazon, or not Amazon, a Netflix original. Okay. I did not know that either because we watched it on YouTube. So I just kind of assumed, it was something else. I did not know that. So
yeah, I was kind of shocked by it too when I was like researching. I was like, why the fuck can't I find a box office number? I was like, was this actually just streaming only? Got into it and yep, this was like one of their early on ones that they 2016, so we're looking at like what, 6 years ago or whatever, and now that's like all they fucking do. Like they barely like get the rights for shows, it seems like, anymore that hit theaters. Like that goes to everybody else.
That's true.
Because everybody like Peacock and Paramount and all those, they all have movie studios, and Max is Warner Brothers, so Netflix just kind of makes their own stuff now. So you go ahead, give me that 10 out of 10.
Let me dig this up. Tasha's going to be cheering over on her section.
Give me that sweet 10.
All right, let's see here. Oh, this one isn't very long, so
shocking.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Shocking. Okay, 10 out of 10. To make this short and sweet, obviously, all I need to say is watch this movie. Watch it with a big group of people. It takes a very simple plot and makes it into a very well thought out horror movie. Okay. Yes. Sure. The opening scenes effectively establish Maddie's story to allow the audience to get to know and care for the character. Once the masked killer arrives, it begins as your typical cat and mouse game seen in every home invasion movie. The main character, being deaf, does allow a fresh spin on this game, though. And without giving much away, the movie slowly begins to evolve into a very tense, fun ride. Not to mention the superb acting from Kate Siegel, given the fact that she was only able to use sign language and other resources as a form of communication. You wonder throughout the film what you would do in her shoes, and you may be surprised by the logic and resourcefulness of some of her decisions. There are several moments that would likely get an audience riled up, so grab a big group of friends and enjoy.
A good review.
I like it. Absolutely nice.
Did they have they say like I believe in there, I don't have it in front of me, like logical ways and stuff. Why the fuck is the house home base? Like there's so much of that kind of stuff that really.
Why is the house what?
Home base.
Home base, like in tag.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of that. I'm like,
there is.
Why the fuck? What?
There's a glass.
But
Okay.
And I don't read. I really don't read these either. I read like the first sentence, the last sentence, and I look at the body of how long it is, and I just kind of send it to you guys. So let's see what this 1 out of 10.
Yay for the 1 out of 10s!
Please, I do not have the same views as this rating. I'm just gonna throw that out right now. Please.
Natasha's words are not the views
of Natasha. Wait a second. Please.
I'm being held at gunpoint.
Third time. Please do steer clear of this movie and avoid wasting some time, which might otherwise be well spent. This is a
awesome review. Awesome. All right. Anyway,
Shut up, honey.
this is a case of a movie with no pace, no real characters. There's absolutely no motivation for the villain's actions, and he does look/act somewhat ridiculous. In most invasions, there isn't a clear direction as to why they're doing it, but anyway.
don't you defend this movie? You've got time to do that later.
But there's no real characters. It's a movie. It has characters.
The first few scenes is character development, but that's fine.
Yep.
The movie is immensely boring and predictable and successfully manages to not scare you at all or even surprise you.
True.
I'm
You are
I lost my
appalled.
spot. I'm appalled at some. I'm sorry.
Do they? Is it a word?
Just lost my spot. I'm appalled at some of the reviews that dare to compare this mediocrity to superb art house films like It Follows.
Oh, It Follows is so
I
good.
have that on my list. I don't think I've seen it.
Okay, before you keep going, It Follows is like a haunted movie, like something's haunted, but it's the way the haunting works is it's like a STD. It's you pass the haunting on to someone else through sex. So like these people have like one night stands and then they're haunted. So then it's that guilt of fuck, like I don't like if it gets too close, it's gonna kill me.
That sounds dumb.
So it's actually really good. That does sound dumb. It's actually really good.
Is it really good as in like the Sloth movie that just came out too? Is that what we're
Oh, I haven't got to watch it and I can't wait because it's on. I think it's streaming. The Slaughterhouse.
Oh my god.
Oh god, yes, that is correct. Yeah, it's about a killer sloth in a fraternity or a sorority. I'm sorry.
Yep.
All right, well, you report back to us on how that goes.
I will. It's literally real quick. A girl wants to be picked for a sorority, so she wants to make herself stand out. So she gets a sloth. Turns out the sloth is a serial killer.
What the fuck?
This is the reason why when I tell Drew about a movie that I've heard of, I have to preface with, well, Nick told me about it.
True. True.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Like, is it good?
Yeah, that's true.
Nick said it was.
Well, Nick has a lot of frontal lobe traumas. Take it with a grain of salt.
So you enjoy your
Nick
sloth
wants
movie.
a tattoo of the Reanimator, so I mean that's enough said. Yeah.
And any good tattoo artists out there wanting to just give that to me for free?
You're ridiculous. Okay. All right. Finish, Tasha. Sorry. Yes.
Shall I continue?
I don't know. Do you want to?
The only... Not really. I'm going to just power through this. The only explanation could be that good reviews were written by the movie's promo team. Whatever the reason, do not make the same mistake I did and believe the positive reviews. This movie is the, all caps, absolute waste of time. The waste of time.
Okay.
Not a waste of time.
If you look up the words waste of time in the dictionary, it's just a picture of Kate Siegel's face. I wouldn't say it's the waste of time. That was Buffy. We already checked that out.
Yeah.
We already decided
that is our meter for a 1 out of 10, and even I gave it, I think, a 2.
Yeah, I think I did too. Tasha was like, "I'm not gonna be nice. This movie was terrible. It is a 1, and I would give it a 0 if I could." So like,
I stand by my
I would
decision.
like to go back and re-review that, and I'm also going to give that a 1 out of 10.
in comparison to what we've watched, I mean that is kind of fair.
I can't think of a movie that I'm ever going to watch that's going to be worse than that.
Yeah, it is bad.
Okay. So, enough of that. As much as we may agree with either side of that, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this one. Let's see here. my first note for this movie is, well, no, like I didn't know the movie yet. Don't.
Okay, that's fair.
I had to actually kind of.
I'm speaking for future Tasha
Yes,
right
absolutely.
now.
No, but it's interesting because the first line I wrote, prime rib with asparagus, maybe a risotto. Because she is cooking. The main character, what's her name?
Maddie.
Okay, Maddie. I'm going to try and say that instead of just saying Kate. So
He'll
Maddie,
call her Allison,
I'll
don't
correct
worry.
yeah. So Allison is making prime rib asparagus.
You already screwed it up.
I didn't screw it up. You screwed it up. Allison is making prime
my
rib
God.
with asparagus and maybe a risotto.
Is it prime rib or is it lamb?
Oh yeah,
I thought it
might
was
be lamb. I'm not a brain scientist. But we notice, like they, I think they did a really good job at the very beginning of this movie doing this. So you're hearing the sounds of cooking, the sizzle of meat in the oven, and all these things. But then they blend it back, and you just hear muffled noise, which I believe is, from what I was reading, an ultrasound machine is what they used to get this noise. So it's just a very like warbled, like kind of thing. And she looks at her phone, and there's a text that says, "Can I stop by?" It also cuts to the fact that her computer battery is almost dead. The scariest thing in this day and age. She's then walking around her house, shaking a cat food dish, and I'm not sure at this time. I later find out what this cat's name is, but what are you laughing about?
I pointed this name out. You didn't even get it. Let's just make that known. Like, we went through this whole movie. He's like the fluff ball, Mr. Fluffy,
Fluff butt.
Yeah, that's what that's what he kept calling it. And I was like, did you not see the little tag around its neck? And he's like, no, we rewind the movie so he can see it. And I started laughing. He's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, that's the cat's name.
And
What's the cat's name?
and there's a whole back and forth as
I just
to
thought
the naming of
I just
the
thought
cat.
she
too.
hated.
There's a
I just thought she
conversation about
hated
it.
the cat.
Oh yeah, it was like a nickname, but it's the cat's name is Bitch, like legitimately Bitch. And I was like, that is quite the cat name. Yeah.
Well, anyway, Allison is shaking the cat food dish for Fluff Butt.
Dude. I just need to know that you're doing it on purpose.
Doing what on purpose?
It's better than the talking into the microphone, Tasha. Just remember that.
It's true.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Continue.
Maddie shakes the cat food dish for bitch. So bitch. I'm just gonna call her Fluff Butt or him Fluff Butt, but it's bitch. Because I have it written down as Fluff Butt a million times in my notes here. Shows up, and then we've got a friend that shows up. Feel free to fill in at any time, because it was a very just kind of here's something kind of going on. It's at this time.
Yeah, it's just she's a woman by herself in a cooking dinner. Just it's a general.
Yeah, and then her friend that lives down the lane from her, essentially, from what I understand, she comes and she's read her book. So Maddie is an author in this storyline, which I actually really like because I'm an author too. So that's kind of cool. And you don't really know her name in the beginning because the only way I found out what her name was is by looking at the spine on her book. And I'm just hoping that she didn't use a pseudonym. So she doesn't. And she's talking to her friend. Her friend read her book and basically gave it glowing reviews and saying, I really loved it. They're talking in sign in this part. And a lot of it is, it's not, at least on our version, we didn't get to see anything below telling us what they're saying. So I know a little bit of sign. I kind of understood what they were saying back and forth. It's not overly complicated at all in terms of like the basis of, you can just watch it and see what they're talking about.
there's a lot of context clues.
Yeah, exactly. They use a lot of hand signals and things like that. And then the one friend is speaking. So like she does occasionally speak and then she does sign. She's, I think, trying to learn to sign a little bit better because they're friends. And she goes to give the book back to Maddie and Maddie's like, no, keep the book. Like, I, want you to have this because I wrote it and you liked it. And she, I don't remember if she took it back or what happens. And
well, and even more so, she's not only deaf, she is mute as well. Like she's not. I'm not gonna mimic a deaf person speaking, but you understand how that can. She does not make noise at all when she is conversing. It's sign, and like she'll silently move lips and stuff. But you also find out that she was not born deaf. She lost her hearing and stuff when she was 13. It's kind of alluded to that she got sick, and the ramifications of said illness left her deaf and mute.
Yeah, well, mute, I don't think she is mute intentionally. I think it's a lot of people who are deaf later in life, they don't know how to speak properly. So I'm assuming it probably has something to do with that.
Well, no, it's she's not. She does not make voice at all.
Can she not talk at all, or is this just a choice?
In everything that I've read, it says that she is deaf and mute.
I think at one point when the boyfriend comes over, I think he mentions like something about like she called. It's an invasion movie, so when the invader is there, the other guy comes. I think it was mentioned like. She couldn't have called you. She's deaf.
Yeah, she says that, but
I think it
is mentioned. But my question is she mute because it's a choice because she hasn't learned how to vocalize now that she's deaf, or is it that she actually can't speak?
These are the real questions that need answers.
The only reason why I'm asking this, and this is completely off topic, is because I have a character who gets injured in one of my books that I wrote, who has vocal cord damage and stuff, and they can't speak for a period of time until it heals. The likelihood of people not actually being able to speak without actually having like something physically wrong with their throat that you can visually see is very, very low. And only because I did all the research on it. So, or they have to have it's a lot of medical stuff. So anyway, that's why I was wondering if this was a choice, because I know some people who are deaf, they haven't learned or they haven't went to classes and stuff in order to vocalize now that they're deaf because they don't understand sounds anymore and how to pronounce and things like that. Especially like when people are younger and they're deaf, they usually do go to classes for that, and then they get better speech. They speech therapy essentially. But if she got it later in life, she would know how to speak. But once she's deaf, maybe she doesn't know how to vocalize anymore. So that's why I was curious, because they do mention it, but they don't, like with most of this movie. And I know I'm going way too in depth with this. With most of this movie, they don't really talk about her. Like we don't know anything about her character other than what we see on the screen. There is no you don't build a relationship with her in a personalization way other than the things that you pick up through her phone or her computer or her very bare conversation with her friend. Like there isn't a whole lot of buildup to that.
And I think movies like this that's not like a hallmark of an invasion movie like this. It's you meet them at the beginning, you get to know just enough, and then you get sucked into at least for me, you get sucked into that what's happening right then and there.
Yeah. And
or it's almost like a voyeuristic type thing. Like you're just coming into this.
Well, most of these we've seen, happens. Like the other one, The Strangers we saw, it's almost like a slice of life is what you're getting. And then it's like these just happen to be happening, and these slices of life. And that's what makes these movies, obviously, because my brain goes to 7 different things, hard for me, is because there is nothing filled in. And I want to know more in the sense, in order to have a relationship in the sense of liking or disliking these characters more.
You want, and this is the problem, is you want this movie to be 2.5 hours to flesh it out, to really get involved with these characters.
I want to care about them.
Correct. And it's such a fine line of over explaining a character when the end all purpose of this film is to put a fresh spin I'll give it that. I don't feel that it did it justice, because like I said, what if deaf, like it starts that way, but I just don't feel that it carries it all the way through the film in a way that it could have been more impactful. More like, there is so much that they really could have done. And that's coming from me, the resident elitist scum. I would have absolutely loved this film if, from the point that we hear the roast and everything going and it goes to muffled sound, if we didn't fucking hear anything but muffled voices and stuff for the rest of the film, and it kept you completely in her because we followed the character. The jumping back and forth and stuff to later on in the film, we'll get there, where we're seeing conversations that don't involve her and everything. It's not really necessary. It's necessary in the sense of a script, but I think it would have been more impactful if we would have it would have been so much tenser. And that's always my thing with these kind of movies. The point of it,
you need some kind of sound. I don't think it would be scary. I think I would get bored with it if I could only see and not have any scoring or any audio.
That's the thing, is at the end of the day, this is made to make money. So you can't do that. You can't just make this movie with $1 million and just muffle the audio the whole time. I would love that.
I would have resonated with that more, only because I felt like we were already in a first-person presence of this storyline, and you're supposed to be following this specific character who is deaf. So realistically, you should also be experiencing what she's experiencing. And I like that aspect. And I'm with you, where I understand that you just can't do that because nobody's going to want to sit through a completely silent film. Although there is a quiet place, but there is some talking in that. So
I will sit through those movies, but I also am not the majority of people. This movie would not have done as well. This movie gets talked about. Mike Flanagan gets talked about. I am not Mike Flanagan. I am not making movies. I am not doing these things. So it obviously did well. This is just my take on it. And yeah. So at this point, the smoke alarm begins to go off, and I have fluff butt is okay, but the prime rib, which is a rack of lamb, is officially fucked. Yeah. Which I was sad because I thought it was prime rib, but now that it's rack of lamb, I don't care. I don't like lamb. And it's
he was trying so hard.
So it's nighttime, and her friend is telling her that she's learned the sign for bitch. And this is the conversation you're talking about, which I thought was funny, but I didn't make the connection really, other than the fact that I thought she was just being shitty about the cat.
No.
So does the friend have a name? Because I didn't pick up on it.
Sometime
Sarah.
we learn it. I can't remember when.
Oh, it's when her suitor,
her
boyfriend, refers to her. But so Sarah invites Maddie over for a movie, but Maddie declines. And then we get a text message from Craig. How dare Craig send a text message at this time? And it just says, "Thought of you." And she instantly deletes it.
Yep.
So Maddie seems lonely. Her what do we got? Oh yeah, she's messing with a book. It seems like maybe something that she has written before. This is where you're saying that you saw the spine, so you were able to pick up the name. And the name of the book is Midnight Mass.
I think that's the book she's currently writing, right? Or is that the one that she did write? Okay,
that's
that
the book
one
that she did write.
And Midnight Mass later becomes one of Mike Flanagan's television series for Netflix. So I enjoyed that. I like that.
The Easter egg. That's fun.
Yeah, but that's it's even more than an Easter egg. It's almost it's so far before. Midnight Mass, I don't think came out till 2018-19. He must have been working on that back then.
And I think there are Easter eggs in all of Mike Flanagan's things, because we talked earlier that the mirror in Oculus is hanging in the the foyer of the house on or the Hill House. Was it in this movie at all? I didn't see it. Because this did come out after Oculus. I don't think so. It wouldn't fit the setting.
Yeah. maybe it was somewhere out in the forest, you know, outside of the cabin because she lives near trees.
Oh my God, stop it. I'm just telling you, reiterating what our child said. So anyway.
How dare she?
So yeah, her author name is Maddie Young. That was on Midnight Mass. That's what my notes say. And then she was sitting at a computer in her living room on her Mac.
Yes. So here's something that has ruined films for me forever. So Apple has a thing with movies and stuff like that no bad guys can use their product.
Are you serious?
If somebody is using a Mac product, they will not be a bad guy in this movie. So she's using a Mac, and I was like, oh, she is our good guy.
Yeah, he first told me about that when we watched the first time we saw Barbarian, and he was like, oh, that one's a good guy because she's using a Mac. And I was like, son of a... Yeah.
It's just like the final girl is always going to be the one.
Yeah.
In a tank top.
I've not heard that one.
Yep.
Start paying attention. You'll be able to follow it.
So the book that she's writing is called Sweetwater, and she's trying to write the endings. And according to this, now I'm really interested in all of this part of the movie just because I find it fascinating. But she has like 7 alternate endings or something like that saved in her computer to finish out this book. And she, at this time, decides to FaceTime with Craig, or tries to, and then she just hangs up on him.
So I think this would be a good time for you, Steph, to not really go too deep into it. But so I found it very interesting how you thought this movie was going to play out. I prayed
it was going to, and I was so excited if that's the twist that they decided to partake in, but they did not.
So what did you think the twist in this movie was going to be?
Okay, so I'm just going to give it up now because we're already at spoiler warnings and whatever. So eventually what I thought this movie was, we were going to play this out. And some of the things that happen in this movie are kind of weird. Like she does some things that I find kind of moronic. And I thought that those were alternate endings to her story that she was concurrently writing, and we were living through visually her endings of her stories. So I thought she had 7 different endings that we were living through different parts of those in order for her to work out whatever was going to be the best for the end of the Sweetwater book. And I thought really it would be amazing at the end of the story that she comes up, flips her computer up, she's writing the ending of the way the movie ends, and then we know that everything we've just went through, including the moronic parts, were actually part of her working out her plot twists within the ending of her story in her novel. I thought that would have been a way more epic ending, and I was cheering over and over and over again. I was like, wait, I wouldn't do this writing, and I think it's moronic to do this for a character. Maybe this is intentional because of her saying, no, scratch that. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this next in my storyline. But unfortunately, that is not.
Well, because we do.
So it sounds like Steph's going to write a screenplay.
Well, but the reason that she went down that road is there is a scene later on that definitely leans into that. Like it felt like it's her thought process.
I really like that.
Yeah. So at that point, she's like, we paused the movie for some reason at that point, and she's like, so this is what I think is going to happen. Because in these movies, when we watch them, Steph always is just kind of like trying to get ahead of the curve. Like this is what's going to happen, and then films like Barbarian and stuff subvert that, and that's what gets her.
Yeah, and this one, I was just calling for it, and I was just like, if this ends the way that in the genius way that I think it is, this movie's getting really high scores for me. If this movie ends in the way that it's just your typical ending, I'm going to be very sad because I feel like there's just too much moronic play in the way that this is set up that I don't like it, because this is supposed to be reality and not her writing fiction. So that's kind of was my argument with it, which obviously a movie is fiction anyhow, but that's not the point. Like this is supposed to be reality. So
would you give it any points if the twist on the twist is that Mike Flanagan wrote this in real time and the character is him writing the story and all of the possible endings, but it's just the movie?
No.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know, like,
I am lost.
well, no, she's saying, like, what she really would have liked is that if the movie was just her endings to the book, but it's still a movie, it's still fiction. So Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel wrote this.
I get it.
Yes, we literally are.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
No, jokes are so much funnier when you have to explain.
You're terrible.
Anyway, it's Greg calls back, big eyes, and she just slams the computer closed. I like that. We've all been there. And now it's dishes time.
Now, this was when we get to our back and forth that we had, and we'll have to see what Tasha thinks about this part. So this is when she goes to clean up the kitchen. And the friend runs to the house and is banging on the door, like legitimately standing next to the sink, close to this door, and she's just banging the fuck out of this door.
Yeah, it's like a full glass and wood door, like it's an outdoor. You can see through it anyway.
Yes, and it's
a sliding glass door.
Is it sliding?
It might be.
Anyway.
It might be. It's glass. We know that. Yeah, and her friend is beating the shit out of it as she has an arrow. She's bleeding. And this guy she has like an arrow sticking out of her back because this guy shoots her. And I really like this part because I thought it was really creative. Like her friend runs up, she's right next to her, she's banging on it. And he then comes up and climbs up like this because it's on a porch. And a guy in a white mask with a tattoo of a snake on his neck proceeds to just stab the ever-loving shit out of this friend, like gutting her legit. And it's not overly gory, but it's pretty...
It's a lot of stabbing. We didn't get a point for gutting, though.
That's true.
No
yeah,
gutting.
That's true. You don't see guts, but it's implied that he's stabbing her so many times.
Yes, and you hear it.
Yeah.
Like you hear the blade entering the meat and the blood hitting the ground.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of the sounds at the beginning of the movie, I feel, were exaggerated too, since it. Yeah. Which I thought was
this is where the argument comes in with this. So if you're standing this far away from a door and you're really not that far and somebody comes up and they bang on your house and your hands are like in the sink and your feet are on the floor, like you're not, levitating, obviously. Would you not feel that percussion in through your feet and through your hands and wonder where it's coming from, especially if your senses are that heightened because you're missing.
Because you've lost one.
Was she standing on a rug?
Oh, the rug defense. Sorry.
Well, that's where my logic goes, because I know like some deaf people love going to concerts and stuff because they can feel the beats and the music in their own way, even if they can't hear the lyrics. So I would think that somebody's literally beating the shit out of your wall of your house, your door, standing right next to you, that you would be able to feel or sense, or even out of the corner of your eye, see something. And none of that happens.
And
the seeing something is what I would think would be the most logical, but I'm wondering if that was the reason for the choice. Well, probably multiple reasons for the choice of glass. But does sound travel as well in glass? Is she standing on a rug? Is it too far
There is
away?
something though that happens in just a couple seconds that made me literally like throw my notes down. Because of this. So we're led to believe this. So I'm going, okay, no, she can't hear. This is the world we live in. She can't hear this. Killer knocks on the door, notices that she can't hear him, drags the friend's body away. She can't hear the friend dying, but she notices the vibration of her phone ringing. Her phone buzzes, and you notice, like, she kind of kicks back, like, wait, what was that? And she can hear the vibration of the phone.
Feel it.
Yeah, but she can't feel whatever got her attention from that, because Steph even mentioned, well, it was flashing the flashlight. Mm-hmm. That was face down at that time. So she's.
I don't think it was
because she flips it over
she does.
later.
We rewound
it. We were arguing through this movie the whole time because we were trying to make sense of this these rules that they're trying to set up.
And we also watched, we probably stopped this movie like 7 times at least, just so we could talk scenes through, just to be like, what the fuck is this?
And that's where my problem with this film comes, is because this could have been really, really cool if the idea of what if death were like completely like held. But the fact that you have someone banging on the door and then 5 minutes later she can notice the vibration of a phone, which is going to be far less like, and it's not right by her either. It's in the next room. Like she's in the kitchen. It's over the island in the living room, and she's able to get that. I was like, okay, here we go.
I have no rebuttal.
I'll see you in court.
But this is something that, like, if you're just watching the movie genuinely just to enjoy it, you're never going to notice this stuff. It's just weird.
No.
Right.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
is my jam.
100%. Yes. That's why you can enjoy things in a different level based on if you're just watching it for pleasure or if you're watching it to understand the plot and the breakdown. So I don't think that I would have noticed it as much as I did if I weren't trying to be studious of this movie to review it. But I watched this for the first time to take it in, to really just let everybody know what's going on. And that's where it's like, somebody's going to listen to this episode that really likes this, and they're going to hear me and they're going to be like, that guy's fucking full of shit. Fuck him. I hate him. This movie is amazing. Go to hell. And we might lose that listener, and I'm sorry, but the door's there. I'm not.
But you've got me.
Yeah, I'm not making money on this. There's other podcasts that probably love this movie. Cool.
But Tasha loves this movie, so I mean, come on.
Hey, you're speaking for the group.
No,
here.
I know. I mean to talk for myself. Like, this is how I approach the movie.
And Drew and I had this conversation. I judge things and rank things more on like the emotion than.
Well, that's where my elitist scum tag comes from. Is I go into this and I'm just like, well, this guy, prove to me that you're a good horror director, and I just go, oh my god, someone got stabbed and she can't hear it. That's terrifying. How
That's
horrible
true. That
would
is
that
true.
be?
I don't want to hear myself get stabbed. I mean, I think it might be better.
That would be. He's so scary. It's happening right there, and you're right there, and then he comes into the house.
See, that's the stuff that really worked for it, and that's the stuff where this sounds so horrible. Where it's just like, hey guys, she's fucking deaf. Like, it was just like, oh shit, because she's back on her computer and stuff, and then you see the sliding glass door open and he steps in the house.
Yep. And it was
and he pulls a knife and he slowly claps, noticing she can't hear, kind of tings the knife on the table. She's like maybe 5 feet away from him. He's like in the kitchen. She's kind of sitting on the couch on her computer, and then Max calls. This scene was really good. I really did like this scene. Like, all this shit that I'm giving this movie, I'm not giving it a 1.
It's not Buffy.
It's not like that. Like, you'll see. But so Max calls, and they start talking about the book that Allison, Maddie, is working on, and we find out that Max is her sister. And it's at this point that we see that the killer, the menace, the whatever, the white masked man, takes her phone that she left away from her. And Max says, "Who's that? I thought I saw something move behind you." That right there is so good. I really like that. And Wesley and I just watched Insidious 3 the other night, and there's a scene that this same thing happens, but instead of it being a killer, it is an evil entity, but it's the same thing, and it works every time.
It really does. It's a great...
Yeah, it's this thing of... And it was the exact same thing. It was a web call, and the person on the other end is like, "Oh, hey, is so-and-so there with you? He's right there." And it's like, she looks over her shoulder. It's like, there's no one there. And they've already built this thing that there's something following her. So it's the same thing. It's like, I see something you don't, and you just feel that tension. Like, just talking about that gives me kind of goosebumps, like kind of looking over my shoulder.
And there's nothing that the other person can do about it. Oh,
it's just a shadow. It's fine.
And then we cut to she's shaking cat food again, but this time Fluffbutt is nowhere to be found. And I instantly got on high guard because I was like, God damn it, don't you kill my Fluffbutt.
Yeah, she opens the door this time.
Yeah, she goes upstairs, nothing. Outside, nothing. She puts a jacket on and leaves the door open for the cat, which is way more loving than I don't have an indoor-outdoor cat. Our cat lives upstairs for the most part with our daughter Noelle. But yeah, I'm not going to just leave the door open and be like, well, I'm just going to throw a jacket on. I live in this.
The other thing my note here says, though, when she goes out on the porch and she's shaking in the cat food, which she did earlier in the show as well, but when she's doing it this time, it's nighttime and she's looking for the cat and the cat doesn't come. I said, why doesn't she smell the blood when the door opens? Because the friend was massacred literally on that same freaking thing. The guy.
Because Mike Flanagan didn't.
I know,
think of
but
it.
to me, it's like there would be something.
Didn't you know if you are deaf and mute, because that's what I read, you also lose your sense of smell.
Apparently so. And
or the viewer isn't thinking about that, and we're just along for the ride.
Fair.
It's like the whole.
Well,
my thing was, okay, he didn't come up there on her porch and with a towel and wipe everything down and not miss something. And at the same time,
and bleach it and lay new boards.
And then at the same time, you're going to smell blood. Blood has a very distinct smell. And
somebody dropped a roll of pennies out here.
Yeah, exactly. So you would.
Maybe that's what she was thinking.
Maybe all she could smell was the burnt.
Maybe that's true.
Rack of
I
lamb.
didn't think of that. That makes a little more.
I've seen this movie multiple times, and never once did I think, why doesn't she smell blood?
Maybe there's something wrong with me. We can just say that.
I'll give you that, Tasha.
That is true. She is right.
I stand with Tasha on this part.
Right.
That makes 100% because we've all had burnt food in our house, and it definitely permeates everything.
Okay, but on that note, then, we're gonna deep dive a little bit more because I'm playing that game today. If it smelled that badly in the house, why was she still in there for a while and she wasn't sitting outside when the house needed to air out because of how bad it was smoky in there because of the burnt food?
Her Wi-Fi is bad and she had to write.
She had the door open.
Yeah, but
her Wi-Fi is bad and she had to write.
Without your Wi-Fi. That's Word documents.
Maybe she just has it on.
You can still write on Google Docs.
Product placement.
Maybe you don't know everything, Steph.
I'm playing you. I am playing you. The devil.
This is the most combative episode we've ever had.
That's why the door was open and she put on a coat, not just for the cat to come in, but to air it out.
But that was later in the day. And then if the
I'm swapping sides. I'm swapping sides.
And if the door is open, wouldn't the smell of the dead body also be kind of like hanging out?
He obviously drug her away, Steph. Jeez.
Dead body's gone.
She's deaf, Steph.
It hasn't been long enough.
It's not gone.
Steph, she's deaf.
Also, that wasn't what the scene was supposed to do.
God. I know, but we're here. I don't know. There's something wrong with me. Every time I see all of this, we watched John Wick the other day, the first one again, and I haven't seen it in a while. And I love those movies. And I was like, why is this going on in there? This doesn't make any sense. And Nick's like, you're turning into that, aren't you? Because we keep doing that for
this
the
podcast has ruined us.
I do that when I read books, but now it's being transferred into movies too.
Very seldomly do I have that. I can suspend like most disbelief and just go into this environment and be solely there.
Okay.
Very few questions asked.
To be.
I wish. God.
I'm so fucking ultra critical about everything, but it doesn't make any sense because then there's just like these horrible schlocky films that everyone's like, that's horrible. I'm like, oh man, I've watched it 30 times.
There are definitely, like, now that I've been basically 90% watching horror movies, I'm starting to find a lot of similarities, but I don't like that. So I need to stop watching like thrillers, how I mentioned, like the final girl's always in a tank top. I need to stop doing that because it's like magic. I don't want to know the details. I don't want to know the ins and outs. I just want to be there for the ride and get scared and let the movie do what emotionally it needs to do.
So you want to appreciate it. That's what I want to do too, is appreciate it for what it is. But when we're going into it with this, it's hard because I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me.
That's why I lean on cosmic horror, because they don't explain the unexplainable. It's so outside. It's so weird, like in the core sense of the word weird, that it's just like, what the fuck? Where you start getting into the alien stuff and like The Fly, where it's like this crazy like science stuff that doesn't actually exist, but like they make it seem real, and it's like it's just so far beyond that it's just like you have to accept it.
I think I'm like that with popcorn movies
because there's no argument against.
Yeah, they make their own rules, but their rules can defy logic. So like that is fine. That's why I like even like the Avengers movies and stuff. They make sense to me just because it doesn't matter. They make their own rules. But when you're
Yep, it's so far out there.
But like most of the movies that we've been watching for this have been all steeped in logic and like life and real, like as in like possibilities. Not all of them, obviously. The Reanimator.
Wait till next week. Next week.
Yeah, but like that's kind of where my argument is like I want something. That's probably why I do navigate. That's not the right word, but kind of go towards movies that are different. Like I like vampire movies. They have rules, but they're not normal rules. Like they don't have to live within the scope of real life.
It's still fantastical. Yes. It's still fantasy at the core.
Exactly. That makes a lot more sense. And I wish I was like you, Tasha, so I could just watch a movie and enjoy it for what it is, because that would be very, 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 very nice.
She's our inattentive viewer.
Exactly.
For a reason.
That's awesome.
But
it's awesome. I love it.
So Maddie's phone starts coming up on her computer there while she's on it, and she starts getting picture messages from her phone. It's of her in her house at this very moment. This works so well.
It's very clever.
But I loved it. Like, I've been talking shit about this movie. There are shots and parts in this movie that I think are 10 out of 10 points.
I agree.
So this is one of those. I was just like, oh my fucking God. Like it's so eerie to put yourself in those shoes at that given time. So last time I'm going to say this kind of stuff. The thing about the deaf, like her being deaf, I don't like. That's my problem with this movie is like they tried to use that as a trope for it, or not trope, but like tried to make it original, and I just think they fumbled the ball with it for me. But the stuff like this, where you're getting the pictures sent to you from your own phone that was just like 5 feet away from you, and him walking in the sliding glass door and someone seeing him behind you. These things work really well in this movie. It really ratchets up the tension. There's another scene later on that I think is the best scene in the movie that deals with the something's behind you feeling, and I think it does it really well. It's probably shot better than any other movie that does it that I can think of at this moment.
They're high marks.
Yeah. So the dude, I just got dude. So we're going to say masked man dude, because it's
not masked man the whole time.
Yeah, that's why it's I've got main character, which is Maddie, friend, which is Sarah, other dude, which is Sarah's boyfriend later on, and dude, which is our killer. That's how my notes read.
Disgruntled IT
yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So
terrible.
So dude is sending her pics of her from her own phone, and it's at this point that she remembers that the door is open, and I have written, "Oh fuck." He's on her porch and shows her the phone. So she runs to the door, shuts it, and can see him. And he kind of holds up the phone. She calls 911 on her her MacBook because she's a good guy. And as she's getting ready to do so, right? Is that how she's doing it?
I think so. And then he just shuts off the electricity,
which then would cut the internet. He then shows her a knife covered in blood at the window and like scrapes it across the window, which I think is done well, but she's not hearing that. And then
I am.
Yeah, it's metal on glass. It has a very specific sound. We then cut to the dude just stabbing the fuck out of dem tires. And somebody please fill me in. I have in my notes lipstick and a flashlight.
Yeah, she goes and she grabs her lipstick and a flashlight and she writes us a note on the window. And I don't have what she wrote apparently because I don't.
She said that her boyfriend's going to be home soon.
It says won't tell, didn't see face, boyfriend coming home.
And then he shows his face then, which was like really cool. Honestly, because it's like we've seen these movies before and they never show their faces. And in this one, he was like, fuck this shit. He just takes it off. And I was like, that was impressive.
I like that. He's just like, oh, you didn't see my face? Well, fuck you because this is about to happen.
Yeah, I like the setup to that. Like, okay, she lost her phone. The power got off. The tires got slashed. Like, you have to get that stuff out of the way. Because that's the scary music, the scary movie logic people like me pay attention to. Not whether or not they can smell blood from the dead body that got dragged off the porch.
And then he says to her, "Can you read my lips?" And she's kind of staring at him, and he's kind of looking at what she wrote, and it's like, "You've seen it now," and recites what her sister said about moving back in with her. So he's seeing their conversation, hearing their conversation and all that. Like, she's talking about like, my boyfriend's going to be right there. But previously in the conversation with Max, she's like, I'm worried about you. You're all alone out there, everything. And then he's just like, oh, your boyfriend, huh? Yeah. It kind of goes back to Scream, where it's like, my boyfriend's here and he's a big football player and he's going to kick your ass.
Like, yeah, we know that's
not true. Oh, you mean Steve?
Yeah, and then she goes to the kitchen after this to get a knife, right?
That's before he says to her, I can come in whenever I want. Okay. Which those things, like at the first half of this movie is yes.
Once you get into the action of it, it kind of loses its thrall. Yeah.
For me, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she barricades herself into the bedroom with a hammer and a knife. And we see a silhouette by a window, and it begins to knock at the window. She drops the hammer as she runs from the room and begins to cry. And she tries to trigger her car alarm with her key fob and everything. At first, I didn't know exactly what she was trying. I thought she was going to make a break for the car. And I was like, you stall, the tires get slashed. But then Steph was like, you can still drive away. If you're going to be murdered, you can still drive away on flat tires. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, but you're also missing the part. Yeah, but the other thing you were missing is that she locks herself in that bedroom and covers the windows, and then she peeks when he's knocking and stuff. But he's knocking on the fucking window with her friend's dead body, guys.
Oh yeah,
he's not knocking. The dead friend's knocking.
He stood her up.
Oh yeah, I missed that line in my notes. Knocking with friend's dead body. Lol. Yeah.
I thought that was one, it's that takes a lot of effort to have to pick up that body and then put it against the window. But I did think, that is doable. But I thought it was.
Well, she lost a lot of blood from the stabbing.
I suppose, yeah, that's true. But
yeah, so she gets the car alarm going. And then it's at this point that he takes off towards the car and she goes out the window to the friend's dead body because this was a problem.
Awful.
So earlier in the film, we see her friend walking up to the porch, and she puts her phone in her back pocket. We see this as a viewer, but it's not from her point of view. But she knows that her friend has her phone in her back pocket. Is how I read it too. And it was very weird. Like it's that like, how do you know that kind of knowledge?
And if you did even see that and it was firsthand knowledge in the midst of all of this, how are you suddenly remembering that your now dead friend, you don't know where the body is at this point, is somehow magically bent over something in the back of your house that you can then climb out the window successfully while the guy's trying to deal with the alarm, and you can find a pocket phone that you somehow remember is in there. Like that was very far-fetched.
Yeah, I think they shot it as she walked away that she was putting her phone in her pocket when she walked away from Matt.
So what?
That's all I.
So this is my thing with slashers, right? Slashers are kind of built in this day and age to make the viewer go, well, in that situation, this is what I would do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she's open. He is fucking on the other side of the house. She's got his attention there. Opens the window. Run the fuck out into that woods and just go.
Yeah.
Like I like to try and get the phone to. This is where my home base thing.
But where would she go? She's in the woods. Who fucking
matters? It's away from him. Just keep going. You don't live in the Adirondacks and like are afraid of a gator. You obviously.
But Nick, then there wouldn't be a movie.
I know, but that's my problem. Like,
stop with the
why.
No,
because they could have done the same thing because he comes right around the corner and finds her. There's a scene where she's out and about running finally. And
I, as a viewer, don't want a cat and mouse movie based in the woods.
Though. Yeah, but
the house is a pivotal part in a slasher.
I don't like it being home based.
In an invasion movie, you need to have a place for someone to invade.
So do you feel that this movie in its like, okay, we are going to like, do you think that we're going to make an invasion slasher movie, and because they thought it was an invasion slasher film, they boxed themselves into having to keep it around the house because that's how it feels? They could, like, there's so many logical things of just fucking run, and then you can still have him chase her. She could have made it to her friend's house and just continued on there, but they just keep it at home base the whole time.
So then it would have been an invasion movie in her friend's house?
because she opens the window. Fucking get the hell out of there. That dude is literally on the other side of the house, but you're just gonna. So
you're just adding a couple extra scenes and going from one invasion to another? It
makes more sense. The fact that you're going to just hang out this window, you're not getting out the window to make it a little easier for you to get this shit. You're hanging by your waist out the window to dig through her back pocket to grab a phone to hopefully call 911 when you've already got the window open. You already...
Seems logical.
Just fucking get the fuck out of there and run. Like that's I mean,
if you do think about, though, a lot of these movies that are slasher films, maybe not necessarily home invasion, because I haven't watched a lot of those, they do have a lot of running scenes that involve like the woods or something along those lines. Even The Strangers did. So like I feel like there was a couple parts in this movie that she could have played completely different, which made my points go down a little bit. Not because I know exactly what I would do in this situation, because I don't, but I agree with that. I just felt like this was too cleanly put together because she would just have to assume that the body's there, assume the phone's still there, assume all of these things. And yeah.
Well, she knows the body's there because the guy.
But she only knows that the body was there when he was knocking on the window. She ran from the room.
Because she leaves. She assumes that she's still laying, like, she assumes that he left the body there over the air conditioner.
Yeah. So she doesn't see it. She runs.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I guess.
That's fair. But while she's digging through there, motherfucker's back and he comes to get her. She gets back in the window and she slams his fingers in the window. She then grabs a claw hammer and does not use the blunt end. She uses the claw part of it and swings it and makes contact with his forearm.
His right forearm.
Yep. He then begins to make a tourniquet out of the friend's shirt and shows that he has her phone. He then grabs the friend's earrings as a trophy. I'm supposing it's as a trophy because there's no explanation other than that it later on.
It's their way of like, okay, let's talk about the Easter eggs here. I already wrote this down. So, and when she runs out of the room, she has a knife and a hammer when she goes into the bedroom. She leaves the bedroom originally when the dead friend's banging on the window. She drops the hammer. And I was like, they're going to do something with that hammer because she left it in the room. So then she goes into the living room. I think she leaves the fucking knife in the living room, right? So I'm like, oh, I guess we're planting weapons now unintentionally for us as the viewers. And so I was like, okay, what are we doing with the knife next? So she runs back, does all this stuff. Now that makes sense because he takes the earrings and then lo and behold, later in the movie, you get a little show of this. So
it's a lot of doing the thing specifically
to use it later
to do the thing.
Yeah, but exactly. It's like, and this is just me. Like, this isn't even like for this like writing the notes. If the whole purpose of you grabbing the thing to drop the thing to come back and get the thing, I understand the idea of if the gun is brought to us in Act 1, then in Act 3 the gun must be shot, but they do it so many times in this that it's not surprising. It's nonstop, like really focused in on the fact that she drops the hammer and it's like a split second, like, oop, you see it, and it's like, oh well, we have same with the phone going in the pocket. We get this like tight shot of the phone going in the pocket, and I was instantly right out the gate, like I didn't even write it, but I just remembered like, well, that phone's gonna matter later. There's so many of those in this that because of that, I don't want to say it's foreshadowing, but I guess it kind of is like a visual foreshadowing that it removes the like, oh shit, like because it's just been handed to us. You see this thing.
He does it in Oculus too when he made that movie. So like,
yeah, that was your guys' thing.
He likes to set these traps up, but makes them very, they're just, you can see them if you just pay attention a little bit and you notice that she dropped the hammer or she dropped the knife, that you already know that he's already foreshadowing something's going to happen. That is why she's dropping this specific weapon in this specific place.
And this is my problem with granted, this movie was only $1 million, so I'm not saying big budget, but like the mass market horror films, I guess, like your James Wan's, your Mike Flanagans and stuff like that, they're not made for me, so that's fine. But at the same time, they do a lot of that, and I always feel that it's disrespectful to the viewer because there's other ways of doing these things that I think are more rewarding payoffs. But when I see this kind of stuff happen in movies, it really just feels like they're reading a book on how to write a script. And it's like, well, if you want this, then you have to do this. And they just keep doing that. And that's my problem with it, is it seems very color by numbers in that aspect.
And that's coming from someone who's grown up really enjoying film. If you're like entry level, I want a scary movie to scare me type person, like doesn't maybe watch a ton of movies or doesn't even like kind of dabble in horror, and they take on this one. If you don't know all of those equations that you've studied and like are well versed in, if you're a novice in these equations, you don't see that 100%. Stuff coming. Or it's almost like, here's a little nugget for you to pay attention to. Don't forget that phone got put in their pocket, or don't forget that thing got dropped. So it just depends on like how you want to watch the movie.
Correct. Too. But to go back to what you said previously, all these things are the girl in the tank top. So that's my problem. So it's me. I've watched too many movies, damn it. But that's why I lean towards the films that I do, because they're so fucking weird and whatever. And some people are just gonna be like, I didn't understand it, and I'm like, that was what was wonderful about it, because I could not like tell what was happening around the corner.
Where for some people, movies that are like all abstract are just way over their heads, and it's really hard to get any enjoyment out of it. And
that's where we've mentioned before, watching a movie as an art form, which I do, or watching a film specifically for entertainment, which I wish I could do. It's not how my brain is wired. It's not how I look at anything. I'm this way with music. I'm this way with books. I'm this way with everything. I hold art to such a high regard that if it does not meet my standards and stuff, the elitist scum part of me comes out, and then I'm just like, scoff, 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 scoff. And that doesn't make me better than anybody. My take on this film is not the gospel. It's just, this is what it is. This is how I viewed this movie.
Yeah.
So we're outside now, and this is damn it. Please kill her so this movie is over. But she begins to hide under the porch
with no weapons.
With no weapons, but she holds her hand up to feel the vibrations of him stepping around. And I thought that was a nice, hey, remember, she's deaf. This is a thing. But okay. So what we got? So she's loud as fuck and starts running, and he pulls out a crossbow and shoots and misses. He shoots again, misses, and he begins to toy with her again, kind of, fucking around. And now we are upstairs. She runs upstairs, and she can see him out the window as he's reloading his crossbow. She starts to escape out the upstairs window and throws the flashlight off into the woods, and you see it kind of tumbling through the air as it goes in. And I thought that was a pretty good thing. So she throws it. She starts to go the other way. And while she's getting ready to go down, I believe it's like the trellis or whatever, she finally gets shot with a bolt in the leg. All right. So up the arbor he goes. So he starts climbing up this trellis or arbor. I'm not 100. It's that the wood that's like kind of crossed and like morning glories grow on them. Mom had them in our trellis. Okay, she had them right off the outside of our cabin as we lived in the forest. And she knocks him down as he's climbing up. But when she does this, she's able to take his crossbow, and the dude gets back up there, and we have a pursuit on the roof. She gets back in the window from whence she came and closes it just in time. And now she's off to the bathroom to do first aid. She's like pouring like rubbing alcohol on her wound and the like. And it's at this point that we see that the crossbow shows that it has 13 hash marks on it. I believe this is him counting his victims. Which I think is kind of neat. Like, it's a nice little thing to show that like this might not be this guy's first time, or if it is his first time, he's been on a hell of a run tonight.
And it kind of alludes a little bit, not necessarily to your second point, about like his motive. Like, this guy clearly just does this for the sake of doing it. Right.
Yeah, it's the pure like spree kill. It's just like he has no goal other than the chaos.
Yeah, and the part this also got me, this is me being hypercritical again. She goes into the bathroom and she's obviously in pain, which makes sense because she was just shot. And she pulls it out, obviously. And she like pulls her, like rips her pants, pulls something, pours alcohol on the wound. And then I think she does provide like some kind of tourniquet or something to her leg. But my thought process is like, who gets shot in the leg in the middle of a pursuit of like getting killed and decides, hey, I really need to disinfect this right now. Like, that in itself was just kind of like, was this just like her way of grounding herself in like reality, being like, well, when you hurt yourself, the first thing you do is you disinfect. But at the same time, I was like, she gets stabbed in it. Then she puts the same pants back on. And I'm just like, what? Why are we showing these steps? Is there a necessity behind it? And it felt just like time, like the need to eat up time and for us to see the hash marks. Like, that's what it felt like. The movie
is short, so it could have been to like pad out time a little bit. They could have padded it in way worse ways where it's just true, but I feel that might be like, I wonder if this might be the reasoning that he doesn't do a lot of film anymore. It seems it's a lot more like, I mean, like he has done Dr. Sleep, which is his more recent film, but he definitely thrives in television, which an episode is like an hour long. So you don't have to like you get from point A to point B in that episode, and you got these beats, and that's where people talk about him the most. So he's probably better suited. And I've not watched any of his television series at all. I'm going to check out House of Usher. I didn't watch Hill House. I just knew that people talked about it a lot, and you liked him
you pegged me for a fan.
Yeah. You like these two movies by him? This is the one that everybody talks about. Check it out. I don't have the attention span for television. So it's
not usually,
unless
it's fantasy
or comedy, even things that are like horror related, like that people are like, you would love this, unless it's like one season. If it's just one season, like, and I mean, Mike Flanagan stuff is like that. So I probably would be on board with it. I just haven't watched it.
And it's funny that you say that you don't have the attention span for it, because I prefer TV series, and for the same reason, because they're tight. It's an hour long, and then I can keep interested in it with the usual cliffhanger at the end, where movies don't necessarily have.
See, television series is, I look at it and I'm like, this is an 8-hour story. I can't do that. You give me a 2-hour movie or less. You get over that 2-hour mark, it better be the fucking Lord of the Rings or the newest John Wick movie, like something like that. But 9 times out of 10,
or Avatar.
Nope. Just it's been a bit, but guess what, guys? We're gonna go back to those one ads. We have a new opening on Pond of the Dead.
But you don't like
He hates the Avatar movies. No, he does not. I bring that up so much because he is so offended by those movies, and I think they're amazing.
James Cameron is a hack.
He's not. He made Titanic. That movie's
garbage.
Good too.
He's only good at sequels. So I haven't watched the new Avatar, so that is a sequel, but he did make the first one.
It was very
good. I'll give him his sequels that he didn't make the first movie of. So he did Terminator 2 and he did Aliens. I'll give him those. I love Aliens. I love Terminator 2.
I do too. Those are good.
It.
Avatar 2 is better than Avatar.
I agree.
Wow,
I think the second one is better.
That's like saying vomit is better than diarrhea.
Well.
But I digress.
Oh my god!
The same story.
Stop it.
But it's
Wesley
really, really
liked it.
Is it
really
still
good.
Ferngully?
But
no, it's not. It's water.
But I'm just saying, like, anyway, we're not here to talk about James Cameron. God damn it.
I find every chance I can talk about Avatar I can just to make you mad. So
the 13 victims, and as she's trying to basically reset this crossbow, he's looking through the window watching her, and he's like, not so easy, is it? Which I think is what every feminist thinks that every man thinks about everything. Like, it's just a guy staring over a woman going like, see, it's not that easy, is it?
Misogynist, not feminist. Is that what you said? What did you say?
Every feminist thing, like what I'm not.
Don't just
dig that hole. Dig that big hole.
Yep.
At me. Come get me.
We now have a new opening at the Pot of the Dead, and now Nicholas is gone, and me and Tasha are running things here.
Enjoy your hours of editing.
I edit for hours as it is.
Enjoy your audio editing.
I will learn.
Get it. Not so easy, is it?
Moving on.
You're such an ass.
So, other dude that I talked about, other dude shows up at Maddie's house.
Oh man, I feel like we're so much further along.
So killer dude pretends to be a cop, and he says that he's responding to a call, and killer
looking nothing like a cop.
Yeah, this whole scene could have just been removed, but again, padding for time. Killer gets the other dude's phone, and the was it Sarah's boyfriend, his other dude. He points out the lipstick writing on the window. So pulls phone out when the supposed cop killer pulls out the phone. He drops the earring that he just grabbed a few minutes prior, and Sarah's boyfriend sees it. It's at this point that he starts questioning the killer and says, yeah, no, there's a spare key in that planner over there. And while the killer is looking for this key to get in the house that is made of glass,
Yeah.
I don't know why he's so interested in this key, why he's taking this bait. Sarah's boyfriend grabs a rock and he's going to bash that head. But at this time that Maddie knocks on the window, which distracts,
Ruins it.
Yep.
I was so mad.
It's just, he's brought here legitimately to die. It's 100% the boyfriend. Like, Mike Flanagan fucking hates boyfriends.
He does, and they show up randomly, and then they just die.
Yeah, you're right.
It's colored by numbers.
And I see it as the movie's been going on for so long, and you only have this one victim, so you have to bring in somebody else to keep people interested. So just like the alcohol on the wound was there, like, you know what will give people cringies right here? Let's pour something caustic onto that. So
it hurts. It hurts.
So it keeps the tension up. And then with this, the big storyline is her evading this intruder. But then you have to have all of these other smaller arcs to keep people tense. Otherwise, you start to get bored with it because it's one location, it's two characters. You have to throw somebody in at some other point solely, to get murdered because that's the point of the movie.
Again, how this movie ends, and we'll get there in just a bit. They could have, instead of having a boyfriend, it could have been a cop answering a 911 call.
But it never.
I know, but they could have just done that, and it could have been a cop showing up, and then he gets got, and it would have, I don't know, it would have made a little more sense for me to have that kind of thing of like, oh, like him playing the whole thing of like, yeah, no, it was an accident.
But this boyfriend was mentioned at the beginning about like, hey, so-and-so's going to be over in an hour. Do you want to come over for a movie? Yep. So this is now showing you the amount of time that's passed. His girlfriend's not home, but he knows his girlfriend would have gone to Maddie's house.
Correct. It's the same thing with the phone call in Oculus where it was like, call me every half an hour. I'll answer the phone. If not, come here to make sure I'm okay. He comes there. He's okay, or to see she's okay. And then
with Oculus, it worked better for me, though, because again,
I agree
goes with the whole thing of like, no, we just have to play by the rules of this. But this movie is so steeped in reality that I just have problems here and there. Anyway.
So in here also, I made this note. So we were talking about her losing her hearing. She did lose it at 13, but she lost it from meningitis. So that is what they talked about. I believe the book that her friend read is like an autobiographical storyline from what I understand. Possibly because it kind of talks about like her experiences, I believe. I could be wrong. It could be fiction, but I kind of got that sense that that's kind of what this book with the book that she was giving back to her was about. But yeah, so apparently the boyfriend knows that she lost her hearing at 13 to meningitis.
Okay. So yeah, Maddie knocks on the window for Sarah's boyfriend, who gets distracted, and we just get a quick as a knife to the throat.
Like in the side of the neck, like it wasn't even like a slash or poked.
In a last chance effort, he tackles the killer and tries to choke him out. So he like takes his back and basically like puts him in a body triangle and just starts giving him the rear naked choke. He says, UFC, we got Herb Edwards out here trying to call it and everything. But as this is going on, Maddie runs for safety. And the killer, so he's like choking the dude out, and then the dude finally gives in to his wound and dies. At this point, Maddie runs for.
But you're missing something here. The whole dialogue. Now, I didn't write all the dialogue down. This is what I found interesting. So the whole time they're out there, this guy, the pretend cop, is having a dialogue as this guy's like dying. Yeah, the killer guy is having this. He's talking it aloud to the guy who's like trying to tackle him and stuff. He's like, I knew you were going to be a big dude. And like he's talking about his size and how he was going to be more difficult to take down because this isn't like his standard
If it was
kill.
a fair fight, he couldn't have
Right.
got him.
Correct. So it makes it sound like the only time he kills is either he's not well versed in hand-to-hand combat.
Well,
let's
it's
just
definitely
say.
it shows the cards of that he has an inferiority complex and he only preys on the weak.
Correct. Or he uses his bow or his whatever crossbow. That's it. He uses his crossbow in order to even the playing field. So I'm wondering if he then wounds like whoever he comes across and then to level the playing field. But obviously we don't know that because all this is just alluding. But because like so far we only know that he's targeted women, and this other guy just happens to be a happenstance that comes along, and then he has to off him too.
Yeah, and we had this whole like
misogynistic argument about
this. I
this.
don't want to say it was an argument. It was more just like Steph was bringing up the fact that it's like, well, you know, like going through the movie, we kept having this argument where she was saying that he was a misogynist because he's only going after women and stuff. I'm like, well, that's all we see, but that doesn't
mean he's a misogynist, and he's right. That's true.
I can't abide by that though, because there is a point where it's just like, you know, I'm like, well, he's not a misogynist. I mean, he's a psycho and shit like that, but that doesn't make him a misogynist. And he just flat out called her a cunt, and I'm just like, nope, you're right. I'm just like, never mind. I rest my case. But yeah, anyway, it's so funny that you brought that up because I was literally thinking about that at this point in the notes, and I'm like, well, I really hope that part doesn't come up because I don't want to say that I was like saying this guy's not a misogynist, but here we are.
Any serial killer is a misogynist. It's just like not the number one. Like,
well, the misogynist would be if the reason they are his prey is because they're a woman.
Good point. If he hates women instead of the opposite.
Correct.
Yes.
Like, because she's deaf is like more why he's like toying with her and stuff.
Toying with her.
It's not really played up, but then once I've already said it, but I'm not going to say it again. Once he drops the hard C and everything, then you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this guy does view women in this way.
He has small dick energy. I think that's the whole point of this movie, right? So like from the time that he's talking to this dude, kind of playing it out that he knows he couldn't take him down, and then, you know, playing the cat and mouse game with the deaf woman, already offing this other woman, like he just feels like he's got this bow, that's his big dick energy, and then he loses it, and like it's just this weird like ego, which I guess would just be assumed when you're watching these kind of movies.
If this movie would have come out just a couple years later, I'm pretty sure he would have been wearing a MAGA hat. So this dude definitely has Trump voter energy.
Kind of, yeah, he definitely does. Other than, he even has the neck tattoo of a snake, which I caught onto at the beginning because I was wondering what the purpose of this was. And we kind of get to, again, that's another thing, it was intentional. So if he had tattoos all over his body and then including the snake on his neck, that would have made a little bit more sense, but he doesn't really. So they kind of made that intentional to make it a focal point.
Yeah, but as far as I'm aware, it doesn't matter, does it?
It does, because she's writing a letter on her computer, and she's saying, because she's like she's ready to go to battle at some point. She's writing on her computer like descriptions of this guy so he doesn't get away. And when she does that, she notes that specifically.
They could have just gave him a super crazy mustache, like a curly Q mustache, and that could have been it. It's like, it's the Monopoly man.
Yeah. I mean, that was weird. So anyhow, back to the storyline.
At this point, the other dude, the boyfriend, is officially dead. And we see her talking to herself about plans to kill him and how to hide, where to hide. And it's at this point you're kind of hearing her internal monologue talking to her. We're running out of time. There's only one ending he won't see coming. And this is 100% like where Steph's like thought of how this movie is going to go. I was like, oh shit, yeah, like she's playing out these scenarios, because you see her like run out and he gets her and smashes her head with a rock and everything. And I was just like, oh shit, they killed her. This is how the movie is. And then it cuts back to her like, no, that's not gonna work. And I was like, oh, right on. And I wish they would have leaned into that, because that was kind of like, that was a neat little way to go about it.
Yep. And then at this point, I just called what she's doing is going into protection mode. So finally, she's done playing the victim, and she's just like, fuck this motherfucker, and I'm going to end this the way it is. Like, that's the way I looked at it. She's playing all the snares in her head, which again, this is right where I wrote my hypothesis of like, this woman is writing all of this in her head as the endings to her newest book, and she's playing off which one is going to be better. As in, this entire movie is what this is. Again, I was wrong. I wish I was right. I was not. But yeah, she's in that. And while she's going through all of this, the dumbass gets into the back of her car and gets a tire iron out of her vehicle. And this is when he finds the cat. Now, this is when I find out by the little name tag on the cat that the name is Bitch. And that's where me and Nick had to rewind the movie a couple, or at least once, for him to actually recognize that the cat's name isn't Fluffbutt. It is
Hate
Bitch.
to break it to you, Nick.
So Fluffbutt is dealing with small dick energy, man. And I was legit worried for this cat. So I goes to kill cat, shot in the shoulder with a crossbow. Goddamn right.
Hell yeah. No one fucks with that.
Now, this next part is the hardest part to watch in the whole movie, in my opinion, because it was the most cringe, awful, just part. Go ahead, honey.
What I have is, so she's running into the house and drops a bolt from the crossbow, and as she goes in, she reaches out for it, and the killer crushes her hand with a sliding glass door.
Yeah, he does.
Over and over and fucking over again.
And you just,
all of her
you hear
fingers
it all crunch, and
you are seeing it. It's not just sounds. Yep. And
this is also where like they should have had some like I don't know, some like Katy Perry music or something just playing in the background, where it's like, you know, like this woman empowerment music because
shut the fuck up.
listen seriously, because like that happens, right? He's like, I'm coming in, and there's like a stare down, and then in her blood she writes on the door,
oh yeah, that's true.
Coward. And it's like, at that point it should have just been like, I'm a
I get where you're going with that.
Yeah. So but before this, she's writhing on the floor holding her hand, and you see it fucked up. And so I was like, I liked this scene, other than the fact that it gave me chills. I'm getting chills now just remembering it because it was so gruesome. I liked it because it was like something I did not expect to see. Like it's always that last minute where, you know, they get it, and then like the door slams and you're like, oh, it was a close call. This motherfucker wasn't a close call. This was like, we are going to put you through some torture, and then we're going to make you be the woman that we know you are. And then that's kind of what the movie plays out to be.
I want to step back 1 second. Not only does she write that in blood, she dips her finger in her own fucking wound and writes it in blood. Like, it's not just blood from her hand.
So why did she disinfect it if she's putting her finger in it? God damn it. Have we learned nothing through COVID about, oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. I love it when she writes "do it" and then she writes "coward" on the window, and that was like the big middle finger to this guy, and I really liked that. That kind of the beginning I really liked, and then the middle not so much because I felt like it lacked a lot, and then this is the part where I was like, this is good writing. This is definitely like woman empowerment.
And she like slaps on the window, like writes it, and that's just like, boom, do it.
Yep. And then that's when she goes and writes the letter to her parents on the computer. Like, this is the lapse in time, right? So the door is locked. He doesn't, which again is like the loosely based stuff where he doesn't break the glass to get in. This stuff.
So many windows, so many glass doors.
There is. It's the whole, So he could have done that at any point. And she's on her computer writing her letter to her mom and her dad to let them know that this is the dude that's got me.
This is 100% my viewpoint as a man, and you as women. Am I the only one that felt that this like became a Lifetime movie at this point, where like she's like died fighting?
No, Kind of. I mean, but I think it's logical though. Like, it's like if somebody's going to find me dying and I'm getting away from this guy, and if I can do anything I can to let him not get free, I'm going to do what I can. I'm good. And that's the only option she had. It's not like she's going to write blood on her fucking wall and play the Johnny Depp thing like he did with the Amanda Heard thing. He's going to she's not going to do that. So she's going to type it out. So I felt like that was actually more logical than a lot of the other parts.
And I see the die fighting part as a mom. I would want to know that like she didn't die like wasn't like a victim. She was a victim, but she went down swinging.
Yeah.
Because if my kids died and I didn't have them writing died fighting, I'd be like, what a pussy.
No,
knock it off.
Terrible. So this was the creative part. This next part was really creative. I knew it was going to happen, but I really liked it anyhow. So she goes and she's like holding herself up in the bathroom. She's just ready to take this motherfucker on. She's like, he climbs in the window.
We're not there yet.
Oh, we don't?
Yeah. He grabs the tire iron and breaks the glass door. So her vision starts to go blurry as she goes to the bathroom because through blood loss, she's weakening, and she starts swaying a bit and everything.
It could also be the adrenaline running out too.
So then she hauls herself up. So he's entered the house. She then locks herself in the bathroom and is like starting to give way. I just read it as like she's like weak as fuck.
She's
now,
bleeding out.
Everything that's happened. Yeah, she's gotten shot in the leg. Her hand's just been crushed to fuck, and she's having it. And this is her last dance and like Helm's Deep. And that's what she's doing. This is the scene that I said is 10 out of 10. This is the scene that I think does it really well because it's the combination of them through sound manipulation and stuff like that. Your everything's kind of like woo, and she's like getting like real woozy seeming and everything, and through all of this kind of like swaying camera work and everything, he climbs in the window behind her, and it's not focused on, it's focusing on her, and you just see his legs descend behind her, and that was really good. Like
it was really creative.
I just really like the way that they put that scene together, and he is right behind her and he says, "I bet if I hit the right spot, I can make you scream." And as he goes to stab her, she turns and stabs him in the leg.
Because she feels the air of his words on her neck.
Yeah, I thought that was...
Which I thought was very creative.
I just have lightheaded faints, ? So does she ends up leaving the room, correct?
She stabs him in the knee. She like scurries. Well, not really scurries, but she gets out of the room. She passes out in the kitchen against
problem with is the fact that she just stabbed him in the knee and ran instead of just stabbing him in the throat.
Or just stab.
Yeah. So she stabs him. She goes and passes out, or basically, at least we don't know the amount of time, in the kitchen. And then she wakes up in time. The killer
begins to pursue her and sees that she's unconscious, like in quotations. Yep. Yeah. And opens her eyes. And this is when he goes, "You fucking cunt," as she sprays hornet spray in his eyes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, maybe she was playing possum.
100%. I think that's what it was.
I think she was just exhausted, closing her eyes, and like she might be feeling his walking across the floor because obviously there's going to be vibrations. And
not through glass. That's all I'm saying.
Apparently not.
Soundproof glass. Soundproof glass. Maybe she wasn't deaf all along. Maybe the house was just soundproof too well.
There you go.
But
yeah, and so she sprays him in the face with hornet spray. And I loved that because I was like, that is something I would totally do. Get under the sink, figure out what you've got, and just work with it. Like, that was very smart.
She triggers her smoke detector, which earlier when everything with the lamb, when we see that's like flashing lights and everything for hers because she can't hear it. And because of this, like she's like blinding him with the hornet spray, and there's all this loud noise and like flashing lights, and there's a fight that ensues. He tackles her to the ground and begins to strangle her, and you start to get like flashes of her life kind of coming before her eyes, and she grabs a corkscrew and puts that motherfucker in his neck, and he begins to bleed out onto her face and onto her, and it's like you finally get that like motherfucker got it, like you get it. She then grabs the phone off of him, walks outside, calls 911, collapses. Fluff Bud is back. Cops pull up. The end.
The nice
the end.
tight ending.
But the only... Yes, well, it was funny that the cops ended this because they also ended in Oculus, so I thought that was kind of funny. We had a lot of cats, dogs almost getting killed but running away, cats almost getting killed but running away. You got the boyfriends.
Can't kill an animal.
He just can't, and like exactly, it's very akin to all of that. The other thing, the only argument I had with the way that he died at the end, other than I loved like the hornet spray and the knife in the knee and all that was very creative. Which I said like 900 times, so I apologize, is that he had his right arm like gashed out with a hammer claw, and he's somehow strangling her that successfully. Like, I felt that was a little too far-fetched in the sense, because it's like that hand should not be functioning normal anyhow, because if you're going that deep, you're doing some damage, and he had to tourniquet it. So obviously it still has more damage. So how is it functioning to that degree? That was my only biggest gripe with the way that ended. Apparently. But then he would have had to have a hell of a lot of adrenaline this whole time. But we don't know. He just watched a Fast and
the Furious movie, and then he came over and he was just going to get to that crossbow killing.
Yeah, something. I just found that was just a little strange. But I didn't think this movie was horrible. I felt like it was, it had its merits. And then the middle part of the movie is the part that I just disliked the most. I felt like the beginning and the ending was good.
Really likes this movie. I agree with that also. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely kind of like its peaks at the beginning and the end, and then in the middle, it's a little meh.
But if you look at like a lot of movies, and books and everything else, I mean, you want to have a very catching beginning, which I think it does do that, and it does have a very good ending. The only thing is the peak in the middle, it just kind of lacks that.
Yep. So that being said, let's see here. We're gonna leave the ringing endorsement for last. We're gonna let Tasha go last this time, because this was her baby. This is one of the ones that she brought to the table. So we will end on a high note with that. I don't know which of us liked it more or less, but I'll just make mine quick and sweet.
Okay.
I liked Oculus more than this one. This is not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's I feel that its ideas and stuff were just not well executed. That's my biggest problem with it. That being said, I probably won't watch this again. But if somebody is not well versed in horror films, or they just, like, for instance, our daughter Sydney, she likes slashers and stuff like that, I would definitely suggest this one to her. This is definitely probably more up her wheelhouse and stuff like that. All that being said, I am definitely splitting this movie in its score from 1 to 10. I am giving it a 5
overall.
Overall, I am giving it a 5 out of 10, because it just, like, I would watch a 6 out of 10 again. Like if it were on TV. If this were on TV again, I would just I'd probably just next. But it's not bad, it's just not my taste. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Yeah, but if you like it, you like it. But I do believe that Oculus is better And I'm hoping that, like, I want to check out Doctor Sleep sometime because I haven't watched that. I know it's the sequel to The Shining that he did, which is based on Stephen King's follow-up book to it. So I'm interested to see how he does with that. And this one didn't do it for me, but maybe there's hope for me to still become a Mike Flanagan fan.
Yeah, I would say that that's a fair rating. Mine was kind of juggling in the same verse, I suppose. I agree with most of that. I do think that this movie is watchable. It's also not very long, so I mean, you're not giving up a lot of time, not like The Exorcist. That's another movie I would never watch again. This movie I would probably sit down if like our daughter Maya wanted to watch it or something. She's kind of one of those ones that doesn't really like scary movies, but she might like this. So I would probably watch that with her. But
she has watched Terrifier 2, which blew my fucking mind.
I know. She's a conundrum, that one. So this is hard. I was going to go with 5 and then I was like, 6. I'm telling you right now, if it ended like I thought it was going to end and it was brilliantly written that way, I would have been like a 7 just because I was like, that was a banger just because of the creativity, but it doesn't end like that. So with the endings of her books. So I'm going to go with the 5.5 because I was like 5, 6. We're going to go in the middle. So 5.5, I feel like is fair. Again, I don't think this is a bad movie. I've just come to terms, at least with the movies that we've watched. I'm not a home invasion person. I'm just not. Like, we've watched The Strangers. I liked a lot less than this. The Strangers had a couple redeeming qualities. This had more redeeming qualities, I feel. And I liked Oculus by him. That's the only other movie I've seen by this. Is it the director? Is that what he is?
Writer-director.
Okay. Writer-director. Okay. Mike Flanagan. So I liked Oculus too. I think I did. I'm with Nick. I think I liked it better than this by a smidge. So I'm going to go with the 5.5.
The floor is yours,
right.
Tasha.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start with my negatives first. Well, I mean, I guess I've already said a lot of the positives. I like the different spin on her not being able to hear, but that's also a negative in the casting. I wish they would have casted an actual person who used sign, somebody who was deaf. I think that would have been really cool representation wise. I don't know how much. So like with that, I don't know how much consulting there was with the deaf community making it. So that's a negative. I agree with you guys in that the second act is kind of a lull, but in this type of movie, it's exactly that. You have the build, and then you have this long drawn out scene of the cat and mouse chase, and then you have the big culmination at the end. So I like this setup. Yes, it is predictable. You know the equations, but I like how Mike Flanagan does the spins on that equation. You know, it's like there's this comfort to knowing like this is going to be this setup. You know, there are times when I want to see a twisty turny movie, but there are also times when this is like my sweet spot, home invasion. I know what's going to happen ish, but I still don't know enough to where I get spooked or there's a good jump scare. I am extremely reactive. So I'm watching these movies purely on emotion. Like I don't have a lot of that logic happening because I'm so immersed in the fear of it. So,
okay. Do you think this has watchability? Like, since you've seen it more than once and we have not, do you feel like this has a good
rewatchability?
Like to rewatch it multiple times?
Not really. It's definitely one that I would rather recommend to somebody who hasn't seen it versus watching it over and over again. Like, I've watched this. This is my third time seeing it. So I know where a lot of like the big scene with him coming in the tub, it's still awesome, but it obviously doesn't hit the same because you know it's going to happen. But I'm like that with books and most things. I don't watch a lot of stuff over and over again unless it's like Harry Potter or like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, something like that has like the warm fuzzies.
The comfort. So
I love thriller books. I love suspenseful movies, but I love that it never is as good multiple times over.
Yeah, some of these movies we've watched, I feel or they get better with time because you can pick up more things. And I feel like this one, I mean, I would rewatch it, but I think you're probably right. It doesn't have that rewatchability factor.
I do have a question for you, considering like your bread and butter when it comes to this stuff is you don't like the blood and the gore, right? Like that's not what draws you to it. You like more of the tension and things like that. I have a feeling that you have watched this movie, but I'm more interested in how long it's been since you've watched this movie. Have you watched Seven?
I haven't watched that since I was a kid.
Okay, that is on our list. We will be watching that. That is a thriller that the more you watch it, the better it gets, because there's so much in the background that you don't pick up. I've seen that movie probably 10 times. After listening to a podcast talk about it and stuff, I got to rewatch it and I've noticed so much more. And that's like, we'll be talking about that one. I'm very interested to see your take on that.
So with all that being said, I give it a 7 because it does lack the rewatchability, but first time through, I really like it. There is a little bit of logic issues of like, my biggest one was her stabbing him in the leg instead of just stabby, stabby, stabby. But then you don't get the awesome scene of her getting almost killed and stabbing him in the neck. So once again, there's an equation. He has to almost die before he can die.
Yeah, the killer always comes back.
But with the stabby, kind of like you were talking about, she wouldn't smell something because of this. What if it got lodged in his knee joint so she couldn't just pull it right back out because it was too difficult for her?
Natasha visibly cringes at that.
I mean, she did get it in there, so I'm like, maybe it got stuck.
I am on board with that. Just like you hear it like bust through the tendons and stuff like that, and then she's stumbling out as he's crawling towards her, and then we get hornet spray.
Yeah, because like think about it, like it could have got lodged under his kneecap or something, and she couldn't have like just pulled it out right away. So it would have gotten. That is something that could have happened, possibly. But also, I have one other question, Tasha, and then we can wrap this up a little bit. Okay, so we know you like home invasion. The movies that we have watched that are home invasion are at your request. How do you feel this movie compares to The Strangers?
That's a great question. And I have really weird deja vu with that question, too. This has happened before.
Maybe
it's a simulation.
Like, Steph asking that question has happened.
We're in the Matrix.
We were in Kroger. We were literally today.
Meyer.
We were in Meyer, and there was just a random black phone on the wall that started to ring. And I told Steph, that could have been Morpheus.
But now you'll never know. It's like Schrodinger's cat.
God damn it! I could have gotten out of
this.
It
was Morpheus.
I could have gotten out of this.
It was all Morpheus and not Morpheus all at the same time. Okay.
God
anyway,
damn it.
This compared to Strangers, I like this better.
No.
I agree. I think I do too.
I don't like Liv Tyler. So right there is already marks against it.
It dings a point. Yeah. But she was Arwen. She was Arwen in the
I like her as Arwen. I don't like her as somebody trying to fend off killers.
I getcha.
Yeah, she bangs into the walls too much and falls down.
So real quick, we'll get the final score of us right after this. But since you like home invasion stuff, they did just say that they're rebooting The Strangers into a trilogy, and the first movie comes out next year.
All right.
So keep your
a trilogy.
They've made 2 movies, and it was supposed to be a trilogy, but now I guess they're rebooting it, and it starts over next year. Hopefully, it's just
a remake, like not a remake, but like a retelling.
Yeah, something
like recreating.
These 3 are at it again.
Maybe we'll see. But yeah, keep your eye open for that one. But what do we got? This is a 17.5 out of 30.
You're very close. A 58%.
It technically, it's a pass on our pass-fail scale of 50. It's kind of how I look at it. If it's below, like I break our whole thing down by quarters, 25, 50, 75, 100. So it sits right on the low end of it. So I still think that most people will like this movie. They won't hate it. I'm not saying that it's going to be your favorite
no,
movie.
I don't think so.
But I think you have a better chance of somebody liking us than hating it. Since it's in the 50 to 75 range, that's where
it also doesn't make you go to sleep. Like we've watched a few of those. So
it's true. I stayed awake for the whole movie.
Oh shit! See, there you go.
Yeah. Oh my god, is this the first one?
There's been like 5.
But yeah, so 58%. Okay. Not too shabby.
I mean, we haven't agreed on a lot of movies realistically. So like most of us either have one drastic or the other. I mean, I think the only movie we've all said that we really liked was Scream. We had one other one that we kind of all liked. Oh, Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. Evil Dead 2 got high.
Yeah, those two
as well. So this is the end of our episode, and we kind of already kind of spilled the beans a little bit earlier, but we will be watching The Void for next week's episode. It is an independent film that came out, I want to say maybe in like 2015 or so. I don't have it right here in front of me. You can find it on a lot of streaming services and stuff like that. But
what's it about?
I love this. It's a Lovecraftian movie.
Oh, so are we visiting Miskatonic University or whatever again?
Nope. It's a Lovecraftian in the sense of it is otherworldly horror.
Okay.
It's not a Lovecraft movie.
Okay.
It's Lovecraftian in the sense where it's literally, I'll give you like just the overview. It takes place in a hospital.
Oh shit.
There is a cult at the beginning of the film. Okay. And some shit is going fucking sideways, and it kind of has a siege movie thing where it's these people are basically bunkered down in this hospital, and there's this culty it's a cult grouping of people that are surrounding it, and shit goes completely sideways in this movie.
That's not at all what I anticipated with the name of that movie.
Good.
Yeah.